channel, Simply Demi. It's me, Demi, and this is Simply Me. Guys, we sat down to film this video and then crazy things started happening. It's like the universe knew that we were getting spoopy. I have, luckily, some clips that Chelsea managed to capture of all the crazy things we were hearing out here. Now, let me start this off by saying we have farms out here with horses and cows and things like that. We normally hear cows all the time, but today what we were hearing was like really scary. Like, you're gonna hear it in the video. It's terrifying. And we know for a fact that it wasn't the cow, because every time that we heard the crazy sound, we heard the cow like reacting to it, which is bananas. But today's video is going to be a paranormal story time. That was the cow. But this is going to be a paranormal story time. I'm going to say part 1, because this one is just going to be all about the crazy things we've experienced in college when we were in school in Pennsylvania. So if you see me looking down, I have my laptop because I did write to my roommate and we were talking and confirming all the stories, so I do have some notes so I don't leave anything out. But what brought this up in the first place was the other day we were actually watching some ghost hunting show, which prompted us to start talking about the crazy things that we've experienced. And I started remembering all of the crazy things that happened my freshman and sophomore year in school. So basically, when you're a freshman, you arrive to your college, well, our college, but most are like this. Oh, that's Gambit. I'm just scared. I'm terrified now because every sound is scaring me. But they always ask the freshman class to arrive a few days before the school year starts, so that we can get acquainted with the school, acquainted with each other, that kind of thing. And it was during these few days that some of the older kids who were running the little, get to know each other program were telling us about how scary things happen in this school, that it's haunted. And at first I didn't believe anything they told me because it's not the first time, that wouldn't be the first time that older kids try to make younger kids scared. It's like a prank, rite of passage, whatever you want to call it. So I didn't believe anything they told me. But one of the things they told me was that the basement of, obviously it would be my dorm, was haunted. And guess where your girl was placed? The basement of said haunted dorm. Anyway, I want to keep prefacing this with, I didn't believe any of the stories. I didn't believe them. But they told us like some girl died there, or the story was always different. We don't know if she killed herself, if she just passed away. We don't know. Point is, it was haunted by a girl, the basement. And I never felt scared until the first time that I had to use the community bathroom on our floor by myself. That was the very first thing I remember. I was in the bathroom by myself and it was like an eerie feeling. Have you ever felt like maybe somebody was watching you? It felt like that. And I was taking a shower. It was pretty late at night and all the shower stalls were curtains. And it felt like someone was gonna just yank those curtains open. It was terrifying. Luckily for me, my roommate and I started like scheduling our showers around the same time, and we would go around the same time, and Lygia, my roommate, would bring like a little speaker, and we would blast music and like talk to each other, so like that it just felt less eerie going as a group to the bathroom than going by yourself, especially at night. But looking at my notes because I want to make sure I get everything right. It was crazy. Now, one of the very first things that I remember is that one of our friends, she lived in the dorm room that was directly next to the bathroom. And we always stayed up really late, procrastinating, studying, watching TV. And she would always come to our room and hang out at night because she didn't want to stay in her room because her roommate would always be out with her boyfriend, or, you know, she would basically never spend the night in her room. And it became a very frequent occurrence that this girl, for the sake of the video, we're gonna call her Kate. We'll call her Kate. She would come running to our room sometimes, like 2, 3 in the morning, like begging us to please sleep in our dorm because crazy things were happening in her room. Like one night she came running saying that all of her drawers were opening by themselves. It was crazy. Like she would try to ignore it or close them and they would just keep opening. It was terrifying. So obviously she would crash with us all the time. And there was another time where one of the things that we always liked to do was go to Wawa. There was a Wawa that was like down the road from our campus and it was open 24 hours. So it was a very common practice that a lot of the students would just go in the middle of the night. So one night, it was probably like 2 or 3 in the morning, we decided we're gonna go to Wawa. Now let me explain this. So I lived in the basement of the dorm, and the basement, if you were outside of the building, those windows were technically like ground floor level. Like you could walk up to the window. And that cow is going crazy right now. But one of the things we liked to do was count all the windows to know like which one was our room. And Kate's window was the first window that you see, and my window was the third one. And on this particular day, like we went, passed by her room, picked her up, like I watched her turn the light off. We got outside, the light was on. And I was just like, oh, maybe I'm imagining it. Like maybe I didn't see her turning the light off. Maybe that, I just thought that, but no. Then we get back, the light was off. We get inside, the light was on. Like it was creepy. It happened again a different day, and this time we're like explaining it away. We're like, no way, your roommate is probably back. Like she probably just returned while we were at Wawa. And we call her before we get in the building because now we're scared because this is like, it's happened multiple times. We call her and she picks up, and I distinctly remember her sounding really groggy, like she was sleeping and we woke her up. And she told us that she wasn't there. She was still in her boyfriend's room, like she was asleep, she doesn't know what's going on. And then we get back in the building, we get to the room, and the light is like not how we saw it outside when we freaked out the first time. Like it was like something was playing with us, like turning the light on and off. Terrifying. And I think I remember like Gia telling me as well that these things didn't always just happen in the middle of the night. Like for example, Kate was coming back from class one afternoon, and it was either her or her roommate's birthday earlier that week, and they had gotten balloons, but they weren't like fancy helium balloons. It was like, you know, the ones you blow up. That sounded weird. But it was one of those, you know, like those types of balloons, they don't really like float around on their own. Like they just kind of chill in one spot. And she got back to her door, opened it, and like all the balloons were like floating around and moving. Like they were floating around in the air. Mind you, these were not helium balloons. They were like air blown balloons. They should not be floating in the air. But they were like, they looked like if somebody was like holding the strings and like walking around the room with them. It was like terrifying, scary. It's just, sometimes there's things that you think have like a logical explanation, but then you really sit there and think and you're like, no way. Gambit. There's no way, you know? But it was crazy.
Recording. Is that the cow?
That was a cow. That was a cow. But before that, it definitely wasn't. It was like a person screaming.
What is
What
that?
the fuck is that?
Is something like chasing the cow or trying to eat the cow?
Are there chupacabras in Florida? No, that comes through. What is that? What the heck is that? What is that?
It's just darkness out there. You can't even see past our light.
Is it getting closer?
It almost sounds like it's getting closer.
Could we call Ray to just... I know he's tired.
Go ask him.
I'm gonna ask him to hang out with us while we film this because
Oh, careful.
this is gonna
Move the...
Okay, I'm going.
What is
I
that?
don't know, but that's...
I wish y'all can hear the sound we're hearing if you are not picking it up on camera. Like there's cows, but like there's like this screaming. Like I've never heard this sound since we've lived here.
Is it still happening?
It just happened.
Okay, so first we hear people yelling, and also the cows are moving like super loud, but there's like something like
Dying.
there's like something screaming. Like it doesn't sound like a person
Or an animal.
or an animal. It's just something like yelling really loud, and every time that happens, then all the cows start moving.
They freak out.
And every time it happens, it sounds like it's getting closer.
Like I wish on camera you can see how close the other street was, because it's not far from us, but the street lamp looks so far from us.
It literally sounds like someone's going.
Like something
There's
wails
people.
and then the cows lose it.
I'm pretty sure they hear it too. I have iced coffee here because let's be honest, after talking about all of this and all of the things we have heard out here tonight, I don't think I'm going to be getting much rest, so I'll take a sip of that. Delicious. Okay, so I also remembered how one night my roommate and I were just like hanging out in our room watching TV. It was like super late, and I heard like this blood curdling scream, like horror movie girl running in the woods scream. It was terrifying. Mind you, again, it was super late, and obviously my first reaction was I need to go see what it was, who it was, you know. And I'm looking out the door and I don't see anyone. Like nobody else on the floor heard it, I guess, because you know it was one of those things where you would imagine that people would react, right? But there was no one else in the hallway, nothing. And Lygia, obviously being the smart girl that she is, wouldn't let me like physically go out there and like find the source of the scream. But obviously that was my first reaction, like I need to go find this girl, like what's happening to her. And I distinctly remember Lygia saying to me, like, have you never seen horror movies? Like the person who goes to explore is the person who dies. And obviously nobody else heard it, so that was her talking me out of it, and the fact that nobody else reacted just made me stay in my room. But it was terrifying. Like, was it something that only I was supposed to hear, or just us in the room? It was scary, especially because the ghost that's supposed to be haunting our floor was a girl. It was scary. It was so scary. Like I just remember that day so vividly. That scream is like something I'm always gonna have in my head. Like I don't think I've ever heard a scream like that ever. It was scary. But interestingly enough, right after I had decided to make this video, I was tagged in a post by my roommate Chelsea on this like alumni Facebook page that all the alumni just created to like talk about things and reminisce while we're on quarantine. And I was tagged in that post about everyone talking about all their haunted experiences in the school. So like, you know, it's not just a handful of people. Like, everyone who attended that school has had an experience one way or another. Like, our chapel was haunted, like super haunted. Like, you would see people in like the windows if you're walking past. Like, it was terrifying. And there was, I believe there was like this, our old chapel that like was used back when the school was open. It was like a little white building, super tiny. It was closed off to students. Like, it was not being used. We were not allowed in there. It was like storage. And that was the window that I would always see someone like looking out. And I remember one day I pointed it out to someone and they said, yeah, like a long time ago, there was a girl who, this is the legend. And I remembered because people were talking about it on the post. There was a girl who wanted to rush for a sorority, but the sorority that she wanted to rush didn't give her a bid. So she was devastated. And that was the story that I heard of why she did what she did. And it was in that building back when it was open. This cow is gonna give me a heart attack. Oh my gosh. But terrifying. Like, people were talking about this, like all these instances. And then there was this one girl who just wrote something like Smith Hall basement bathroom was like terrifying, or like she was afraid of it. So I commented and I was like, wow, I'm so glad that I'm not the only person who was like really scared of being in that bathroom by myself. And then she ended up messaging me and told me the whole story, and she gave me permission to share that with you. So I actually have it on my laptop. I want to read it word for word because this is her experience and it's terrifying. So her experience, she says, I graduated in 2001. I actually lived in Moan Hall, so it's a different hall from mine, but crazy. She says, my freshman year, but I would stay on the couch in my friend's room in the basement of Smith Hall on the weekends because my roommate's boyfriend visited almost every weekend. I woke up and needed to go to the bathroom. I checked every stall before I locked myself in a stall. I wasn't a fan of surprises. Who is, right? And she said, absolutely no one was in there. I went into the second stall, sat down, and then saw to my left a pair of feet pointing directly at me from the other side of the stall. It was green socks in Birkenstock sandals. At first, I was like, I'm out of here. I'm not getting peed on. She's funny. And then she says, then in a split second, I remembered that no one was in that stall. She said, I checked and no one had entered. I ran out so fast. I looked as I ran by and no one was in there. I slammed the door so hard in the room that it woke my friend, who was mad that I woke her up until she saw how freaked out I was. No more late night bathroom trips for me. That's crazy. It's like she saw what I felt was there. Does that make sense? Like, that's terrifying. I think it's also pretty funny that the ghost she saw was wearing like socks and Birkenstocks, because that is my thing, but it wasn't. But like, creepy. It's like you almost feel validation. Like, that's what I felt when I was reading all of these posts of all the crazy things that people were seeing. And it's just terrifying that it's also scary that now, like today, that we decided to make this video, like scary things were happening. Like, that's one of the main reasons that I decided I'm not filming this inside, because I don't want to invite that energy, you know? And as soon as we set out here, we just started hearing all these crazy abnormal sounds that we never hear. Like, I promise you, like, I am not scared of being out here by myself. I actually come out here every single night. It's part of my routine. I come outside, I get some fresh air, I clear my head, and I spend like 20 or 30 minutes like by myself in the dark out here. And I'm afraid of the dark. So that should tell you that I'm not afraid of being out here. But today that we decided to talk about this, like, it's just like a whole different scary ambiance back here. It's terrifying. So take a sip. Personally, super scared. I don't know how you guys feel. This is only going to be the part 1 because there's a lot of other experiences that I've had in previous houses that I've lived in, and my roommates are actually hanging out with me right now. And I just want to tell y'all, I'm really sorry, but y'all about to find out in part 2 the scary things I have experienced in this house, and we've only lived here for like a month and a half. It's terrifying. So
Hashtag me too.
Crazy. It's like it follows me around. It's scary. So since I'm scared, I'm gonna tell this last story to maybe end this on a little bit of a lighter note. Now granted, when it happened, I was terrified. I was completely like convinced that I was going to die. And Lygia and I laugh about this to this day, but it was scary when it happened. So basically, one night we're in bed, we're sleeping, normal. It's like 2 in the morning, maybe later, I don't know. Can't really remember the time. But I just hear laughing, like in the middle of the night. Like our room is like, we're asleep, like no one else is in there, it's just her and I. And I'm like waking up, I'm trying to figure out where is the sound coming from. Come to find out, it's Lygia laughing in her sleep. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. The ghost of Smith Hall has possessed my roommate, and this is how I go. Obviously, like, I'm frozen in fear in my bed. I'm not moving. But then she proceeds to get up out of bed. And I'm talking to her and she's not responding. Like, she's asleep. This girl walks to the window, like, opens the blinds, looks outside, like, talks, gets right back in bed and goes back to, like nothing happened. Guys, I thought I was gonna die. Like, I really thought she was possessed. Like, it was gonna turn into a horror movie. Like, it was crazy. Turns out she just sleepwalks. And, like, it's funny now. It's funny now, but that was the first time I had ever experienced it. And then, like, just picture, like, maybe, like, the night before, your friend running to your room because her room is haunted, and then your roommate starts laughing in the middle of the night, like, while she's asleep. That's terrifying, but I figured that was a more lighter note to end this on. But scary stuff. We'll do a part 2 if you guys want to see it, and part 2 will have like all of my newer experiences in the house we used to live in when I first moved to Florida to this house now. It's terrifying. Maybe I'll convince my roommates to come on and tell you the things that they have experienced, because they have told me some stories, and my arm, like the hair on my arm and my back, like stood up. So it was scary. Make sure you say your prayers tonight. And don't invite these things in your house. Thanks, air conditioning. That's basically just cued us that it's time to go. But thank you so much, everybody, for watching this video. Don't forget to comment down below. Tell me what you think about all these crazy stories. Do you believe in the paranormal, or do you think it's like it could all be explained? And if you think it can all be explained, then please explain it to me, because I'm scared. But don't forget to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't, and don't forget to also turn on that notification bell. My mind is everywhere because I'm terrified of all the things I'm hearing. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next adventure. Thanks for being part of my Ohana. Bye.
It's just so weird. But Ray, why don't you just sit out here with us for this video? Come on, man.
Just hang out right here, boo. Like, I got a chair for you and everything.